Welcome back to Broken Electronics. I'm Lee, and I'm so happy you could join me for today's little computing adventure. Now, I'm going to tell you something about myself. Maybe you may not know this. I collect computers. There's a surprise. But I take a little bit different approach to it than a lot of people do. I focus on machines that are old enough that people aren't really looking for them as their daily drivers of computing power, but not so old that they have yet become prized collectibles. A good example of this, I have a collection including every Power Mac from the G3 Blue and White up through the G5 Quad. Now, there are a few of the Power Mac G5s that I don't at this point have, but up through the MDD FireWire 800, yeah, I've got them all. And they weren't expensive. One hopes that 20 years from now they will become very, very, very valuable, particularly if we take good care of them. All right, now, you've seen a lot of the Mac Pro videos from here, a lot of the Power Mac videos from here, a certain amount with iMacs. But I also have an interest in Mac Minis. I am an early adopter of the Mac Mini. My first Mac Mini was the original G4 Mac Mini. And we've progressed along from there. Now, I have examples of many of these, and I set about recently to complete the collection of Mac Minis. And I have a couple here. This one is actually a duplicate of one I already have in the collection. It is the Quad i7 from 2012. And here we have one that I've always avoided buying, but I jumped in because the prices have become a little more reasonable recently. This is the 2014. Now, from the outside, how do you tell them apart? The answer is, unless you look very, very carefully, you don't. You have to compare the I/O ports on the back. Now, let me see which one is which here. Okay. We'll start with the 2014. All right. You've got your power input, gigabit Ethernet, HDMI, two Thunderbolt 2 ports, 4 USB 4, and then headphone and microphone jacks. All right. The 2012 is almost identical. The only real difference is there's only one Thunderbolt 2 port, but there is a FireWire 800 port. Now, for most people, that FireWire 800 port is simply from the past. To me, it becomes quite valuable because it makes it a little easier sharing information between this machine and many of the older machines. FireWire in its day was a great technology. Its day is no longer. All right. Now, as far as the actual differences between the two, this, I gotta look at the back to see which one's which. This is the 2012, is 2.3 gigahertz i7. This is a 3 gigahertz i7. Now, 2 years newer, but not a substantial difference between those processors. This is a dual-core i7. This is a quad. All right. So, one of the things I intend to do, we're going to take a look at these machines. I'm going to do some upgrades with them. This is not all going to happen in today's video. We're just going to introduce the machines today. Um, but we're going to upgrade both of these machines. We're going to put them on a common operating system. Right now, they are using the most recent operating system natively supported on the machine. And then we're going to wrap that up by looking at benchmarks, because I'm curious. Between these two, 2.3 gigahertz and 3 gigahertz, but a quad and a dual, I'm thinking that the older 2012 is probably going to end up on top as far as that. Although there are other tricks with the 2014. Well, anyway, we want to introduce them, so I think the next thing we need to do is to boot these machines up and take a look at what we have in there. So if you are interested in continuing along with this process, please stay tuned. All right, we've got everything hooked up and power the machine on. This is, as I said, the 2012 Mac Mini. The monitor being used here is the 30-inch Apple Cinema display that is usually powered by my PowerMac G4 Quad, which has been happy to donate the use of its display for today's video. So I continue to fiddle with trying to get this thing centered in the camera. Boy, this is taking forever. Wow. Okay. Password. No clue. The seller didn't say anything about a password. Let's try. Same thing as username. No. Let's try password. I mean, this had to be a new account setup using Mac Mini. All lowercase password. Oh dear. Maybe there isn't a password. Yeah, that's it, sure enough. Okay. Oh, wow. Look at this. That time is completely wrong. It's looking for airport. We don't need it to be online right now. Obviously, this is on. Take a look at about this Mac. Yeah, this is slow. That would usually open up a little faster. Okay, yeah, it's Catalina, the last version of Catalina, and we've got 2.3 gigahertz quad-core i7s, as I said. It is maxed out to 16 gig of RAM, which is good. Startup disk, that doesn't really tell us anything. Integrated Intel graphics, which are not great, but man, look at this resolution. And we're beach balling. Oh, how about that? Yeah, it is so default for display. 1280 by 800 on a 30-inch cinema display. And that would appear to be about it. Son of a gun. Okay. If I were planning, I'm suspecting a lot of this is the fact that the 30-inch Apple Cinema display only has DVI. DVI is an older technology, and I am connecting it using a DVI to HDMI adapter in what Ken from Computer Clan would call conversion technology. And I'm suspecting that's why, 1280 is not the native resolution of, or the default resolution of a 30-inch Apple Cinema display. This could be fixed using something like Res Extreme, but I'm not planning on using this monitor with this machine on a regular basis. All right, be nice to see again why this is this slow. Oh. From what this is saying, there are actually 2 hard drives. I thought the seller said there was a 1 terabyte hard drive in it. Well, let's look in the system report. Okay. Storage. Macintosh Data. And Macintosh HD. Yeah, that would appear to be 2 separate. Okay, let's look under SATA. Yeah. 2 hard drives. Rotational rate 5400. We see why this is so slow. Okay, while we're in here, okay, yeah, 802.11 ABGN. Okay. You should be in pretty good shape with that. How about Bluetooth? Yeah, so this should be working with everything. Okay, so that gives me a bit of a plan. I have a 1 terabyte 2.5 inch SATA SSD. We'll open this machine up. This machine is very upgradable. It doesn't need much in the way of upgrades. To replace hard drives is a bit of a pain in having to open up the machine. So I think what I'll do is open it up enough to get the top hard drive. If you're just doing that, it's pretty easy to do. Then put that in there, install the operating system on that, and go from there. So that's basically our upgrade path. About all it needs doing. It really, given the slowness that you can see, we really need the SSD in there. And with that, we ought to be in good shape on this machine. Okay, so let's end this clip. I'm going to connect up the 2014 and we'll take a look at that. Stay tuned. All right, brief word of explanation. I had made a couple of attempts to boot up the 2014 Mac Mini. It would start to boot and then we just got a black screen. So what I have done is to shut it down and connect it. Instead of using a DVI to HDMI, I've got it connected DVI to mini DisplayPort, which happens to be the same connector as Thunderbolt 2. Let's see what this does. Here's our chime. Okay. Wouldn't call it super fast, but certainly a lot faster than the 2012. All right. So this seller did include a note with the machine when he shipped it, and he told me the password that he had put into this clean install. which I must have typed incorrectly. Okay. All right. About this Mac. Oh, Monterey 12.0.1. That's like, if I'm recalling, is that the first version of Monterey? They actually, instead of releasing a 12.0, they released a 12.0.1. Okay, so 3 gigahertz dual core Intel Core i7, again 16 gig of RAM. Good that it's got that, because that is soldered on. It is non-upgradable. Again, we've got Intel integrated graphics. Now, before we click on storage, in establishing the collection, I am certainly, at least at first, going to concentrate on getting one example from each identifier. The PowerPC G4 Mac Mini identified as a Power Mac. So the 1,1 Mac Mini was the 2006 first Intel. This, well, we can go to System Report and you'll see there's the Mac Mini 7,1. There were, however, I think at least 3 distinct versions of the 7,1. There was one where you could get a built-in spinning hard drive. There was one that had a fusion drive, similar to what they used to include with iMacs, where you would have a spinning hard drive, but the essentials of the operating system were stored on a very small SSD, which they would combine into effectively one drive. It made that drive function a whole lot faster. Okay, we'll come back into here. Now, the other version, which I believe this should be an example of, is an SSD only. We're seeing here this so-called Macintosh HD is a 250 gig SSD. All right, we can come back into here. Storage. Now you see the 2 separate listings, but this is the same drive. That's APFS doing the work there. Okay. Apple APFS Media. All right. Okay, so yeah, here's what we see. The Apple SSD controller. So this is going to be not an NVMe SSD, but it's the Apple version of an SSD, which had this weird connector. There are at least 3 videos on the channel of the upgrade of a 2015 MacBook Pro to an NVMe SSD, where you have to use an adapter to put it in. Well, anyway, we're in good shape here. Okay, so that's what this has got, and that's interesting. Now, it would be possible, you can see here, it does have the SATA connector. I could, in upgrading this machine, add a 1 terabyte SATA SSD, or more for that matter. Now, in order to do that, involves completely disassembling the Mac Mini, which I just as soon not do. However, I do happen to have a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD, which can, by use of adapter, be put into this machine, replace the 256 with a 1 terabyte. And that should pretty much be all we need. Okay. I think we're good. It's obvious this flies. I just wanted to take a look under displays. Color profiles, Cinema HD, right? Yeah, it's the same story, and it's got to be the conversion, because this cinema display supports much higher resolutions than that. But as we said, this is really just to see what's on the machines. Okay, so that's what's going to happen. We need to do the upgrades, and they're in both cases fairly minor upgrades and relatively easy to do on both machines, involving storage. Then OSs. In order to do a realistic comparison between the two, we need to put them on a consistent OS. And I think the thing for us to do here is to put them both on Ventura using OpenCore Legacy Patcher. By doing that, they'll both be running very similar kinds of operating systems, and I think we'll get the best possible comparison. And I'm very much looking forward to this. So I think what I'm going to do in the next video most likely is the 2012 Mac Mini, do the storage upgrade on that, and the OS installation. Neither one should be very difficult. Next, a separate video to do the same thing with the 2014, and then wrap it up with the comparison between the two. I'm looking forward to doing this. I hope you'll want to join in and take a look as we go. And if you do, certainly come back at that point. Be good to other people. They need it and deserve it. Be good to yourselves. We will make this world a better place, but we have to start by being as good as we can to ourselves. It's not a better place yet, so please take very good and careful care. Yes, so we have those things coming up. I'm also looking into completing the couple of Mac Mini holes remaining in my complete collection from the PowerPC up through the end of the Intel era. And that's as far as I'm going to take this for now. So those will be coming. You'll see videos on those machines. Maybe an overview of all of those Mac Minis might be interesting too. And there's a bunch of other things coming up too. But until those things are ready and available to watch, this has been Broken Electronics.